Hi, my name is Isabella. Welcome to the Intern Whisper. This is my show, and it's brought to you by Employers for Change. This show is all about the future of work and innovation, and we always have amazing thought leaders on the show. Today's guest is Safia, I hope I did it right, Porter, who is the executive director with the Black Orlando Tech, also called BOT. So if you're from Orlando, you would know that. Safia is a marketing expert who connects brands with social trends and uses data-driven strategies to achieve measurable ROI. She graduated from Full Sail University. Everybody loves Full Sail here in Orlando, and now resides in Orlando, where I just mentioned, and she leads initiatives to bridge the gap between technology and community empowerment. Her leadership at Black Orlando Tech and Easy Water for Everyone reflects her commitment to driving meaningful change for underrepresented communities. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So excited. I have this list of people that I've been wanting to have for quite some time. And it's always one of those things that when I work through the list, but then I meet new people and it's got, okay, I have to build them into the list.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, fun fact, was, one of the sharks.
Yeah. Yes.
Damon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had met him at a learning event and he said yes. So I'm very excited. I'm going to go and get him on the show.
Yay.
So,
that's exciting.
It is exciting. But we're going to talk about you now. So tell us about yourself using only 5 words. What are those 5 words? Passionate was 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have passionate.
Why passionate?
So when I get into things that I'm just love and adore and it really just aligns to my own personal self, I get really passionate about it and like to just pour as much as I possibly can into it.
I understand that. It could be anything from, I'm sure, cooking to what you do in your real work.
Yeah, like if I come up with an idea and I just fall in love with it in that moment, like you'll find me the next 24 hours just scouring and trying to find how to bring it to life or etc.
That's good. You mentioned that your second one was visionary. Why visionary?
Visionary, since I was a child, like I just always loved like the performing arts and arts in general and music. So I find like all those elements like they really help in regards to me just working, if that makes any sense. And it really just helped with awakening the imagination because I truly believe in like the imagination of or a play. Even as an adult, sometimes we forget our inner child is there. And so when I lean into my inner child and just that imagination, that creativity, a lot of great things just tend to happen.
I agree. I teach Sunday school to 3 and 4-year-olds, and I do that intentionally because that's where I get to go play.
Yeah.
Like what you described, and it also helps me to remember how to work with adults.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because everybody doesn't want to let their 3-year-old come out of them, and we're all 3-year-olds.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Are the terrible threes.
No matter how old we are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no matter how old we are. So you mentioned your third word was polite. I know you to be very polite. I've followed you for a while on your social feeds, and you're always so considerate, so polite. So why did you pick that one? Was that just great parent upbringing on your parents' part?
Yeah, so I am South Asian and African American. So with both my parents, they just really have instilled with me like the whole, you know, I can't think of the term analogy, but the whole idea of like it's always great to be the better person in in situations or being considerate of other people's feelings and their thoughts. So I've just always that's what just always has been walked with me in regards to like it's just always best to be polite and to be seen as a nice person, regardless of what other people might think of you. But on the other side of the thing is like, okay, if I'm able to project myself in this sort of way, in this sort of light, like good things, you get more people like you get more good people that surround you, and keep you grounded. So,
Yep, I would agree with you on that one for sure. Yeah, you reap what you sow, if you want to go with that one,
yeah,
but you also attract what you're wanting that you give out.
exactly.
Yeah. How about caring? Why caring?
I just care for everyone. I'm always trying to find ways. One of the big things in my family is giving back and philanthropy work, or just giving something more to others that they may not have. Um, so I just find when you're able to be a caring person or a caring soul, like to your point in the previous statement, like that you'll be granted like higher whatever you like believe in, like you're
Hmm.
granted a higher stance, but then you'll always have like that good juju coming back to you, or
Hmm.
really helping you get to where you need to be in life.
I agree. I know that you do a lot of work with nonprofits, and I do too. And I love nonprofit because it's one of those things that it's a constant reminder of selflessness.
Mhm.
It's about serving the greater good of whatever that organization is about.
Yes.
So I'm with you, soul
Mhm.
sister there. Intentional. Now this word, I love it when people use this word. So why did you pick intentional?
Yeah, so it kind of brings all those words together to this last word of being intentional. So, whenever I just get into something or become a part of something or relationships or et cetera, I just always want to make sure that I'm being intentional, and giving that um thing or what have you all of me within reason, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
just making sure I'm making um impact that's like of quality in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make sure that like it makes sense and is important. But also I just want people to know that when I say something or do something, like I mean it in a way.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say like intentional. Like I never want to do something that might be wasting people's time, or they're just unsure of my actions. I always want to make sure like, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what we're trying to do, XYZ, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, you put a lot of thought into it. You're thinking about all of the positives and what could happen that's not so positive.
Mhm.
And it's weighing those carefully to provide, just like you said, something with impact.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good words too.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So the next question is how share whatever you want about your educational background, the industries that you've been in, which you mentioned nonprofits. I'm sure we're going to talk about that,
Mhm.
and how you got to where you are now with being the ED at Black Orlando Tech.
Yeah, so starting off with the education. So I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, in the Midwest. My college journey actually started there, where I was a part of the Indiana University, Purdue University campuses, where at the time I was really excuse me, excuse me. I was really in love with the idea of maybe being on the news as a
Mm-hmm.
news anchor, getting into broadcast journalism. But at the time, I had realized like, this may not really align to what I really want to be doing. So, and that was also at the same time of where social media was starting its boom. So I started university probably around 2011, 2012. And I just noticed like in these journalism, they weren't talking about social media yet. But if they were, like, the textbooks in itself was already outdated, just because I was already noticing how fast and quickly it was moving. But growing up, even with my educate before university, my, parents had always, like, put me through STEM camps actually with Purdue
Oh.
University. So I had the opportunity, like, almost every summer of high school and middle school, being able to go to a summer camp, with Purdue University, learning from, aviation, biology, crime and forensics. I learned how bridges were made. Like I got through all those different programs just to figure out what it was that I liked. I knew at that time like I did like the technology side of things, but I just wasn't sure what that was going to be for me growing up because I wasn't like really into the engineering and other medical what have yous of science. So it's like okay, I know it's there, but it's not quite what I want to do. So since then, and then going through a couple years at a regular traditional university, I have been in social media becoming on the rise. I was like, okay, I think we have something here. Because not only did I like the broadcasting, but I was like, I like technology, and this is like a whole different realm. So that's where things actually was the wheels were spinning and things started changing for me. So Um, Eventually, my nephew had brought attention to me about Full Sail University at the time. And when they had came about, of course, Full Sail had been around for many years by that point, of course, but they didn't really have a program yet that had interested me because it was all still music and movie production and that sort of thing. I was like, I'm not really sure about that. But he kept pushing me because he's like, oh well, they at the time were starting a new program called Media Communications. And I was like, okay, so this is more in alignment to what I've already been studying. It's more hands-on training. Kind of going backwards again, when I was in high school, it wasn't a traditional stance. I was a part of a program called New Tech. And it's a really great program where they take high school students and instead of learning the traditional route, you're actually going through it's project-based learning. So you're always working with a set of students with yourself within a group to building a project. But it was also technically advanced because you're utilizing a laptop, Adobe, all these different programs to help put these projects together and just learning from that and making evaluations. So Full Sail to me, very similar in an aspect where it's like, it was a university, but it wasn't the traditional like sitting lecturing sort of thing. Like they actually the hands-on training, project based, getting to work with other people collaborating to get you prepared for the real world life of working. So I made the switch in 2012 to online with Full Sail University. And then eventually after a year, I was like, oh, this is great. But personally, I was ready to go on to a whole new venture in life. And I was like, oh, why not I just switch to on campus? So I can at least still get the on campus experience. And it's also in Florida, hot weather. And then I just honestly saw like there's a lot more opportunity than staying in Indiana at the time for me in my career. So I made the switch to go on campus to go to Full Sail, um, and I just had the best time going through that program. It really taught me a lot, especially what I'm doing now in my current career. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would be, honestly. But I do give a lot of props to those instructors and to those courses that I had learned during that time. But fast forwarding on what they have really prepared me for. So I started off my career outside of college going through a digital marketing agency called Your Brand Voice.
Oh,
Um,
wait, is that Carol Cox? Did she have that?
no.
Okay.
So the owner and the founder, his name is Brian Bruce.
I know him.
Oh, do
I
you?
do. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was my first boss out of he gave me a chance actually before I actually graduated from Full Sail. He gave me my first job with him as a social media manager. So I got to work with him for a few years, working my way up to being more so project management and account management. But it was really him who really just really showcased to me like the power and how you can be so intentional with digital marketing in general. So going through that whole process whole process had really just helped me also learn where I was able to go on or work on some really great client projects that were tech advanced, from AI to VR, um, working in other industries as well, such as small mom and pop shops. Did a lot of golfing as well, a lot of hotels, um, being able to be exposed to all these different industries, food, etc., just through that digital marketing agency. So I was able to really figure out like, okay, what is it that I really like to do? What do I really like to have fun with? Um, what really gets me excited? So ever since that first job that I had, I was like, okay, digital marketing is the way to go. It's like really just the best place. And then just transitioning to now, well, how did I get to bot? How did it get to the nonprofit space? So I did make the switch to at the time I had a little burnout moment
Yeah.
to be
Don't
quite
we
honest.
all?
Yeah, so I had quite a bit of a little burnout moment. It was actually when I had my first child, my daughter, at the time. So it's like trying to navigate and juggle motherhood along with a career at a young age. So it caused the burnout where I was like, okay, I need to take like a year off. So I actually did take a year off from working. Um, and I actually just got a little small little job at Disney, be quite honest. Just customer service. just so I can just kind of get my gears back in order and just really figure out like, okay, what is it I really want to do? And how do I want to continue this journey? So I had landed a really good opportunity with Darden Restaurants to work on the Olive Garden team, on their social media team. But then at the same time, I also um, one of my instructors at Full Sail actually introduced me to Easy Water for Everyone.
Yeah,
So
what
that
is
was
that? I like the name. I don't know what it means, but I definitely want to know more.
Yeah, so Easy Water for Everyone is a nonprofit that works in sub-Saharan Africa. Excuse me. And what we do is we have a technically advanced solution or water filtration device that we install in villages that don't have access to power or plumbing, essentially. So we take what they might be so far getting their water sources from like a lake, a river, or a borehole or a well. And oftentimes those water sources are very highly contaminated, causing a lot of waterborne illnesses, diarrhea in children. Just not really a great situation at all
Hmm.
for health and well being. So we go into these villages. They're usually populations of 300 to 500 people, and we install this water filtration device um, that really helps with purifying the water from a gravity flow technique, essentially. So it pumps up the water into this tank, and then the tank with the gravity flow flows it through this water tank or water filtration device that actually is. I'm probably going to say this incorrectly, but what it how the way that the water is filtered is through these filtrations that are these filters that you use for dialysis in a hospital. We take those filters and we get them cleaned, we get them reprimed, and that's what we're using to help filtrate the water. It's completely safe. They're just like recycled essentially.
Mm.
And outpours is this clean, pure water that's also not has no chemicals as well embedded into the water. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's more just helping these villages. So we so far have um 35 sites currently
Wow.
that are
That's
up and running. I think we're definitely gonna have about 40 to 50 by the end of next year. Um, but that's what Easy Water for Everyone does. We are helping provide pure, clean water, to disadvantaged communities in Ghana, Uganda, and Senegal.
wow. That's amazing. How did you find this group?
It was from one of my, professors at Full Sail.
Huh. Yeah, I'm pretty dialed in usually to environmental things, and I've
Mhm.
never heard of this one. And so that's why really wanted to know more about it. But let's talk about another group that you support, Mino.
Yeah, so Mino is a
Hmm.
fantastic group. So they started this program where they're really trying to help professional women or just Black women in general get to the C-suite. And this came out of I was actually more so a cohort or a participant into that program because my desire was to get into the C-suite in the industry. But the way that this program worked is essentially they would hold workshops with other women that were in the C-suite who would give their own like life story in regards to like how did they get to where they are, providing resources, also providing weekly mentorship opportunities, or like even just more so like it was therapeutic at times too, where you can have one-on-one with these coaches, really asking them like, hey, I'm going through this thing at work, or how do I get to A to B to help me get closer to my professional goals, and being able to really like talk it out and getting some solutions to the problems at hand to help better ourselves. But it's a fantastic program because this sort of program doesn't really it's really hard to find, especially for Black and brown women as well. Oftentimes when I personally see leadership programs, it's kind of hard to know if you actually are welcome just due
Hmm.
to who is running them or who is in there or who do you actually see a part of those cohorts. So it really felt like with Mino, I was in a safe space along with other Black women around the nation to really get the resources that they need, to help the community. Often you'll also hear like village as well, to help support you and go along the way.
So what does the name Mino mean? I don't mean to put you on the spot,
Hmm.
but this I did not look up. I'm guessing minority, something in there about that.
I honestly don't know what it was meant, what it means. I know at the time before it was Mino, it was called the Well, and then they switched to Mino. But to be quite honest, I don't remember the definition of
Yeah, you've
why.
been there for a while, I think, right?
No, so the program actually ended in 2023.
That's just last year,
Mm-hmm.
right around the corner. So many times, one of the things that I experience, I know that you said the concentration was on Black and Brown women, but I think that there's always this place where affiliates,
Mm-hmm.
allies come into play. It's, because you have to have those,
Yes.
as we're women, and we know that we have to have male people there to help us open some of these doors because sometimes it's just not possible unless we
Yeah.
have those people. I would imagine it's the same. You probably had allies of all colors and
Mm-hmm.
genders to be able to help women in these
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking for it really quick to see if I could find it. Oh, well, no, I cannot find it.
Yeah,
I'll come back to it
to be
later.
quite honest, and just off the record, she may have removed some things because I know she also went on a hiatus.
Ah,
Um, hope we I
the
am in
founder.
Yeah, I am in communicate with for bot, and I'm hoping, well, we're trying to do something next year,
Hmm.
honestly, with her, to bring back the program. So maybe next podcast I can talk more about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be good. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
always one of those things that, organizations, nonprofits, sometimes they don't always stay around
Hmm.
because the grants that are available, it's always a shrinking pool. As you well
It's
know,
very particular
yeah,
too.
you have to
Yeah.
have make sure the mission of that organization is matching the mission of the whatever the funding source is that you're asking for.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then it's just a lot of work to have
It
a
is.
nonprofit. It's harder to have, to me, a nonprofit than it is a for profit.
Mhm. Yeah, so so going back to Easy Water, I've been with them now since 2019. So that's where I was able to get out of my burnout and make that switch. But to your point, yes, like funding a international nonprofit is
Mm.
so difficult.
Incredibly hard because when you're talking about Americans going, well, why would I give money
Yeah,
to a nonprofit when we have people in our country we need to help? That's always the argument I get.
especially with water,
Yes.
because we have our own water and wash issues.
Mm-hmm.
I go to quite a bit of conferences for Easy Water where we're talking scientific and non-scientific issues. And it's incredible. It's incredible, but also saddened. Um, what I'm able to learn in these conferences, especially on the US side. It's like, wow, it's like, yes, we're trying to get funding internationally, and to see I mean, of course we would love the grants from the US government, but I also think like, we need a lot of that help here. Like it doesn't make sense to be the leading country in the world, and we're having these issues
Mm-hmm.
for people,
Yeah.
or water poverty issues, essentially.
Yeah. Like there's literally deserts,
Yeah.
deserts of, they call them food deserts if you don't have healthy sources of food around you. But it also applies to water. And you know what?
Mhm.
I'm emphasizing the word water the way that I guess we would say it if we were British, because it's interesting. I've had exchange students from all over live with me. And so one of them said, say this word, Water. Go ahead, say it.
Water.
Yeah. She said, "Why do you say it as water like there's a D in there?" And I went, "Hmm, that's because we're probably lazy, is what we are as Americans. We're not emphasizing
It's
the
not
D."
proper English.
Yeah. So I sit here, and because that student, that person, that exchange student that lived with me would say that, I realize that now I make more emphasis to make sure I'm saying water. And it sounds so funny to say, right? But I think that the work that they're doing here, you mentioned that you've gone to some of the conferences. Are they local? Is there a local
Mhm.
chapter?
Yeah, so, I go to this one, in the University of North Carolina. It's a water and health conference. They have it in around October. But this is where a lot of the organizations come together just to learn from each other, like what's going
Mhm.
on, learning about our own personal projects, but also trying to understand on either international or national side of things where the need is still needing help.
Where do you know where in October, what location would this conference be?
Yeah, so I want to say it's like the third or fourth week of October annually, and is at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, with
Mm.
the Water Institute.
I would like to I want you to pass that on more, to me.
Yeah.
One of the game jams that, for me, Cat 5 Studios, OMG Labs, and Indienomicon, shameless plugs for all of them. That those companies are in the simulation and the game industry.
Hmm.
One of the big type of game jams I would like to do is something based on environment, specifically
Mm.
water,
Yeah.
because I really feel like, hey, when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? We can't make coffee without water. You
Yep.
cannot make beverages without water. So
Exactly.
what are we
Hmm.
going to do?
Yep.
Anyway, count me in.
Yeah, I actually had this really fun idea for a campaign and I want to bring it to life so badly. But really trying to showcase to I guess here in the US or anywhere where everyone's pretty well off. But like imagine a day without water, but imagine if the water out of your sink came out as brown as
Mm,
the areas that we're serving, or washing your car with the same type of water,
mhm.
or you're taking a bath and your water's brown. Like, is like you couldn't imagine that,
No, we can't.
right?
We cannot.
So, like, I did have, a blessed opportunity last year to go around this time, to see the sites, and it's definitely been very full circle to, be working since 2009, building up these sites, fundraising for them, during the holidays, and seeing them come to life, but being there in person is a completely different experience because 'cause you're
Yeah.
also seeing, like, who's benefiting, and especially, like, with children too. Like, with me, I have 2 young kids, and just, like, imagining, like, what the moms would have to go to just to either fetch water or just to make sure it's clean, or, you know, also because of the benefit of our water system, being able to make sure that your children are going to school and they're not
Yeah.
getting sick, or diseases or what have you, and you don't have that fear. So, it's really something that I think a lot of people definitely take for granted.
This reminds me of something Clean the World used to do too.
Mhm.
They had a campaign that was around safety
Yeah.
and the use of water. And they would make sure that people knew that by having the ability to use hand sanitizer or wash your hands, just
Yeah.
washing your hands,
Mhm.
it changed the health of a village.
Yep.
It would actually be able to help people more than just on this little microscopic opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's something that's big, and especially with what you're proposing of brown water. Nobody
Yeah.
likes to think about that.
Yeah, for every year in March is World Water Day. So what we do in the village is we actually host a large gathering, um, and just really like it's really fun too because we'll have like quizzes for the kids, water facts, water education. But for the majority of wash and particularly with hygiene, really teaching them like the best practices and why it's so important to utilize soap, why it's important to make sure that it's always available to the kids, but also it's like changing kind of like the cultural norm or the cultural thought as well in their households.
Yeah.
So if the kids are learning it at school or at our programmings, they're taking it back home to teach the family as well. And we've had some really great success rates as well just with this nonprofit. We have you'll see on our website if you go to easywaterforeveryone.org, you'll see we have quite a bit of research because honestly, the majority of our team are either nephrologists, doctors, um, researchers. So we're also a very data driven nonprofit. So we back a lot of what we're doing up to data. So we've been able to, decrease diarrhea. Like literally, it's almost close to flatline. Like if it was higher before we got there for water testing, and since installation, they're at the bottom, which means there's
Wow.
less people getting sick.
Yeah, that's amazing. I pulled the website up while you were sharing about it, and I really appreciate you gave it easily to the listeners,
Mhm.
easywaterforeveryone.org.
Yes.
So we hope that you guys go visit there and see how you can make a difference in the world. So that's valuable there.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go and change to a new question.
Okay.
How do you define diversity and inclusion? Two separate definitions, right?
Yeah. When I think of diversity, I just think that is a word what I see where everyone's able to be involved and there's not this red tape and politics that's getting in the way of it. And diversity can be many things. It's not just race, but it also means gender. It also means people with different mindsets. Um, being able to all of us to work together and also just be respectful of each other for the better good or common good.
Mm-hmm. So that's the part that you have about inclusion, right? Working together for the greater
Mhm.
good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to thank you for sharing that because everybody has probably a pretty similar definition. Mine is similar, but I focus on what I call head smarts and heart smarts
Mm,
because if I don't see, if I had no sight, I could not see anything about you.
yeah.
But if I paid attention to the words that you said, I would be paying attention to what's coming out of your head,
Yeah.
how educated you might be, things of that nature. And then if I'm also paying attention to the words that you say and even your actions, I would see those 5 words that you use to describe you.
Mhm.
And I use the word see very loosely because
Yeah.
what if we could only see what's on the inside of people, the things that matter to them, and then, their ability to communicate effectively, their problem solving
Yep.
skills, those critical competencies more than sometimes knowledge.
Yeah. It'd be a completely different
So different.
eyesight.
Yeah, very much so. So I read this article in there was an article that was written in 2023, but I saw this show on Grey's Anatomy and they talked about the power posing thing that came
Mhm.
out. So I researched this, I found it, and it said that there was close to 130 experiments that explored power posing with 10,000 participants. And this was at The Ohio State, University of Bamberg, Martin Luther University and Hal Wittenberg University. So the object was to find out whether consciously deciding to take a certain power pose would influence a person's confidence, their behavior, and their hormone levels. And so I don't know what your
Mm.
thoughts are if you have a superhero, but I'm not going to do it here in the studio because then I get away from the mic. But if you stand up,
Mhm.
listeners, stand up, put your hands together as like a fist and put them on your hips and then shoulders back, gaze off into the ether, whatever the air
Mhm.
is. Feet are slightly apart. I'm not kidding. I feel so strong and so powerful. Even if
Yeah.
I'm sitting down, I
Mhm.
still feel it.
Yeah.
Do you have a superhero that you lean on for inspiration?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say for my superhero, I'm going to go with Iron Man.
I love Iron
Okay.
Man. So smart.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Iron Man. And the reason being just like I mean, of course, it's like the actual movie itself, but just the way that
The
the
character.
character is portrayed, I feel it really aligns with my the definitions from earlier
Mm-hmm.
and how I see myself. Whereas like being innovative, being imaginative, going outside the box, but also making sure that the due diligence is there, the care is still there, and all those things. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just ooh, how do I say it? Not just because you have your power, you're not like Thanos, essentially
Yeah.
using your power for wrong, but like you're using your power for good and to actually change the world to be better. Um, so that's what I will say. It's definitely Iron Man because I think that he definitely embodies that amazingly, and I could definitely relate a lot to that.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Kind of like the Spider-Man says, ooh, what was that little quote that his uncle said before he died? It's kind of like too much is given, great is required. I don't know.
Mhm.
Spider-Man quote. Let me find it here about power. Okay. So I think with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
That is
Yes,
like summing
exactly.
it up for you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a proverb out of the Bible also, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and we will be right back.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business.
Now we're on the second half of our show, and this usually zips pretty fast, listeners. And we're here with Safia Porter coming back into the show. What do you think 2030 will look like in the world, the big picture, your industry, marketing, creativity, and potential jobs
Mhm.
in 2030? And that's barely 5 years.
Yeah.
We don't count this year.
I can see that the world's gonna be so, I mean, just thinking about technology and AI, I can it's gonna be so much different and something that we probably I don't know if we're ready for it. I mean,
Yeah.
or I can
Well, it's not
imagine
optional.
it's not optional for sure, but it's definitely going to really change. I mean, it already is, but it's gonna be really embedded and change the way that our lives are on a daily basis. Um, I mean, my hope by that time is that there are some I don't wanna say policing, but there's some
Regulations.
better regulations
Yeah.
as well. But at time and also, like, the people that we do have in office are gonna be able to do their due diligence and become educated, about all the wonderful things of technology and AI, but also make sure to make the right decisions, that make sense, for everyone. But also making sure even on the ethical side of things that, things are aligning as well.
I agree. When it first came out, Chat GPT,
Mhm.
everybody was really talking a lot about it and it taking jobs. But it kind of reminds me of this. It was when we first had the written word and it was on stones. And then we fast forward, we have books, right?
Yeah.
We skipped a lot of steps there. We have books. And then we used to use something called the card catalog to go and find
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of what we would call the internet, if you
Mhm.
will, but it was all very physical.
Yeah.
Then we fast forward again, we have the internet. We had the web, we had the internet. And then that's where people are doing all of these searches for all kinds of stuff. Now, what chat is this giant, giant, big card catalog, and it can find anything I want in seconds.
Yeah.
And it can go and say whatever my searches were, and it can give me information that is good and bad.
Mhm.
And it is up to me to use wisdom to discern what should I say with this giant, quick, speedy ability to gather information and spit out a response.
Mhm.
That might have taken me, I don't know, a month to prepare as a report if I was in school
Yep.
or a grant,
Yeah.
and I got it in seconds
Yeah.
or minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, is it something to be feared? Maybe, maybe.
I
I would say yes, but maybe.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we should be fearful of it.
I
I mean,
think
we
it
could
depends
be
on how it's used,
yeah, it
right?
depends on of course, like, it definitely
Yeah.
depends on how it could be used. Um, I don't believe that AI can eliminate all the jobs because
No.
you still need the human element. As humans, we still wanna feel connected, from like you said earlier, from the mind to the heart, like, we still wanna feel connected in that sort of way, and not just, connected by robotics or the mimication of human beings. Like,
Mhm.
you can always kinda, like, sense when something's fake versus real, you know? So, it's like, I don't think that a I know that people are very nervous about AI and jobs, but I just can't fathom to see that, it'll take over things because 'cause you're still gonna need that human element to be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, Many times I've seen 4 of the 5 episodes, or not
Mm-hmm.
episodes, seasons of Black Mirror. And
Mm-hmm.
Black Mirror was like so dark.
Yeah.
I sat there and I actually stopped watching one of them because I could not watch it as they were drilling into the skull of this person to
Yeah.
implant something. And I went, you know, if it's out there on a sci-fi channel, then yes. Do I think it's really happening? Oh, heck yeah. It's happening somewhere in the world. I may not know about it, but it's in somebody's
Yeah.
experimental room. But those are the things that I sit here and I go, yeah, there's always going to be people that will use it for good
Yeah.
and those that will not.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like something that was out there was a show that I had seen on 60 Minutes. Jeffrey Hinton, he was interviewed, and he's the godfather of AI. He stated that one of the ways in which these systems might escape control is by writing their own computer code to modify themselves. So, you know, he said that's really something that we need to take seriously
Mm-hmm.
and be worried about. And I would agree with him because just like anything, I mean, people created the nuclear bomb and it was supposed to be there for what? You know, it can destroy and kill, and it did.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always good things that could potentially come out of it. Just the
Yeah.
threat of it could keep, you know, the world in check. There's always good and bad.
Yeah. It reminds me, his quote reminds me of the show Westworld that was on, I think, on HBO.
Yeah.
Where it was essentially robotic people, but eventually they did rewrite their code and were thinking for themselves and doing all the madness themselves. So
Mhm.
that is something definitely to make sure and to be careful of, because it's kind of like a virus in a sense where it
Yes.
could just kind of like take over and do its own thing. But that's where I say like there should definitely be safeguards, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, we are the ones who are creating all this. We're the humans creating all this. So there should still be safeguards to make sure like stuff like that
Yeah,
doesn't
checks
happen
and
or get out of
balances.
hand. Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been taking notes of everything that you're saying here because this is how I build the show notes. So I just want you to know why I'm writing this.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, because it's sometimes people go, "What is this person writing?"
I
Yeah.
could definitely go back to your more bot questions. I realized kind of took over with the easy water stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
I
no.
do have time.
Yeah. No, we are totally good.
Okay.
So, but you know, the thing about I had a client that was a nonprofit, and I'm going to go to that point that you mentioned about water, but they do mission trips on the Amazon River.
Mm,
And the same thing that you had mentioned, drinking the water that was, you know, really, it was brown, and how can you drink it? And, you know, it's just filled with,
yep.
you know, human waste as easily as it is the
Yep.
decaying leaves that are in there. And
It's like human waste, crop waste, animal waste,
yeah,
all those things.
pharmaceuticals, I mean, they
Yeah.
are there. We know they're there. There's all kinds of stuff that's in it. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people need to be aware of those things for sure. Um, I'm going to go and jump back into the ethics of this whole thing about AI. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that there's anything else that we haven't covered? Because honestly, when we talk about AI, when it first came out, I was going, well, I want to be on the committees. If there's
Yeah.
committees about this, I want to be on there to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I also know that I've had a lot of guests that come on the show and they talk about how they don't believe that any type of an AI tool can take the place of a human. Yes and no, because there are places in the world. We have those that have disabilities. We have people
Mm-hmm.
with, you know, not as they're they may have mental, you know, some type of issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be somebody that we have to be mindful of and remember. Not everybody's going to be a programmer.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do those things. I could not be a programmer, but
Yeah.
you know, I am also not somebody that has a some type of a challenge in my life that requires that I can't have any skills.
Mm-hmm.
So the greeter at Walmart, I like that person.
Yeah.
There's a McDonald's that's here in town and they have no humans in there. I go, I like seeing the kid that's, or the person, forget the kid. It could be a senior citizen now. You know, I like that person saying hello to me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a place where we should not,
Mm-hmm.
just because we can take jobs away from people doesn't mean that we should.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, to your point, like a lot of these fast food restaurants and grocery stores are all self-checkout now,
Yeah.
and you don't.
They trained us to check ourselves out, right?
Yeah, they have, which is very interesting though. Target is reverting on that.
They told me that. They
Yeah.
said, yes, they said that from their customer feedback, the customers would rather interact with a human.
Yeah. Yep, because now they limit to like 10 items to go through self-checkout, but
Mhm.
anything more than that, you have to go through a regular checkout and talk to someone, which is
Yeah.
totally fine. That's how it should be. But that's where it goes back into the whole checks and balances. Like it's like I get like generational, but I'm like, I would say even my generation and below, we still care socially about things, and we still
Mhm.
thrive off of those social interactions. And I think, to be quite honest and frank, I feel like a lot of these corporations and businesses, when you're bringing in technology and especially AI, it seems like this cookie cutter way to just get out of paying people or dealing with people's attitudes or what have you. Is like, okay, it's just best to just have a robot or a screen, and we don't have to worry about anything.
Mhm.
You're just worrying about the computer. But I feel like they are doing a disservice because it's like, then like how as human beings do we talk to strangers and interact,
See,
and
that's the point.
like that you can't really work up those social skills anymore, outside of your friends and family, if you
That is
can't talk
true.
to other people.
Because well, first off, we're humans, we're made
Yeah.
for a relationship. Secondly, that is how we gain social skills to interact with people.
Hmm.
And having, whether it's a senior citizen or a teenager, learning those skills in customer service at pick a restaurant,
Yep.
that's really valuable.
It is.
It is,
Yes.
paying them, of course, something so that they can have some standard of living is important. But if I'm going to go to a McDonald's, I'm not expecting to pay, $20 for a burger. I
Right.
go to McDonald's because it's affordable
Hmm.
and it's quick.
Yeah.
And that's what they're known for, and they're everywhere. And consistency is supposed to be one of the key things with the product. So I do like interacting with a human, and I hope they
Hmm.
do keep humans in place because,
Yeah.
you know, my favorite place to go will always be Chick-fil-A because they
Hmm.
do such a great job with customer service.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm
Playbook.
glad you brought that up because I was going to go into the next thing of where, because of technology and AI and how rapidly it's able to move and be utilized, um, I I feel like we have a very unhealthy assumption that everything in life needs to be like that, or
Yeah, it does
quick,
not.
and you know you're just overloaded as human beings as it is.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, maybe some people feel like, oh, well, you don't really have time to talk to an actual human being. You just want to order your food and keep it moving. Um, but that's the unfortunate thing. It's like kind of like technology is like, it's been a good and bad because like even for me, because I'm so busy, I actually enjoy going to the grocery store.
I do too.
But because I'm so busy, I have been reverting to grocery delivery. So it's
Mm.
like you're missing the whole element of like picking out your own food, like the simple
It's
things of
more
life, how it used to
experiential.
be. Yeah, like the experiment is gone. It's like, okay, well, my groceries just show up. And it's like, it's great, but it's like to the point, it's just like, what's the point of being human if we're just being treated like robots as it is?
Mhm.
But Chick-fil-A does have a really great model where they mix both those elements together very well. Like, even if I'm ordering on my phone, I'm still going to be talking to a human being, regardless if I'm going to a drive-through or if I'm in person, or if I do the whole like you don't even have to go to the registry, you can just order on your phone and they bring it to the table, but it's still like a human
Mhm.
coming and talking to you.
Yeah,
So,
love that too.
mhm.
Okay. Well, it is hard to believe, but we really are at the end of the time for the show. So my last question for you is, what is the best mentoring advice that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah. So the best mentoring advice I would have for you guys, and honestly, it just comes from my dad. Where in life you need to just keep going, keep pushing.
Kind of like
Um,
Dory.
yes, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think oftentimes because our lives are so fast paced, or we're just very hypercritical of our own individual performance, that we feel like maybe one bad rep um could be like the end of it all, but it's not. You like, you keep going, you keep pushing. I always believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But the other advice I would have to give to you from a mentor is like also making sure that you are surrounded by people who want to see you win as well.
Mhm.
You know, it's okay to be hypercritical and really evaluate the circles that you're in and really just figure out like, well, do I need to be here? Are these people really for me? Are they more so trying to get something out of me for their own gain, or are they genuinely here for me?
Yeah.
So I think that's very important to evaluate as you're going through life.
Good advice. Really good. How can our listeners find you? Do you have social channels that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram by Safia Porter. And then on X, you can find me by Safia Alice.
All right, listeners, that is how you can reach her. I want to tell you thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This has been great.
Yeah.
I've never had this much time to be able to chat with anybody.
Oh.
And that's why I do like the full hour format.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it just flies by too, honestly. Well, I want to thank you again, and I look forward to having more conversations.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and thank you to our video production and editing team, Erica Ullman and Gavin Staley. Music is by Sophie Lloyd. The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Employers for Change, helping hiring teams to recruit and upskill their intern talent and employees. Learn more at www.e4c.tech and become a member to reduce hiring bias and improve your company culture through Head and Heart Smart recruitment and learning. Subscribe to the Intern Whisper today and show your support by sharing our show, tagging a friend to listen, and leaving us comments. You can find the Intern Whisper podcast on Employers for Change YouTube channel or streaming from your favorite podcast channel.